In this video, we're going to make a Windows 10 workstation using VBox by Oracle Corporation. This will produce a virtual machine, which we're going to use. But once we've created the virtual machine, the procedure for installing the operating system will be the same if this was a real machine, real physical machine, or whether this was the virtual machine. This could also be done with VMware. I'm using VBox because it's free. So let's get started. So the first step is to open VirtualBox or whatever, VMware, whatever your virtual machine is, or go onto your physical machine if you have it. What we're going to do here is we're going to say, call this my WS10, and we're going to specify that this is Windows 10 64-bit. The workstation for NASCO analysis must be a 64-bit machine. And we're going to specify a different place to store this. So we'll go here, we'll come to this machine, and this is just going to be I. So we'll select that folder. Next, we're going to use 2048 as the default. We're going to create a virtual hard disk now. We're going to dynamically allocate it so we don't tie up 350 gigabytes of disk space all at once. The file will expand as needed. If you are working on a physical machine, then your disk will be fixed at the size that's installed. Okay, now that we've created that machine, we need to make a small change for settings. We're going to come in here to network, and instead of saying NAT, we're going to say we want a bridged adapter. This will allow us to go in and change the IP address after we've created the workstation. Now we're going to say, we're going to start this, and VirtualBox will come up and about the installation media. In our case, we're going to use an ISO file, which is right here, Windows 10 Enterprise. Again, Windows 10 Enterprise is the required version of Windows 10 for NASCO analysis. When we say start, this is going to go ahead and install the operating system from the ISO file. These would be the same screens that you would see if you were installing from a CD-ROM or a USB. We're going to take these default settings, English United States. Next, we're going to say install now. And it tells us that setup is starting. Now, this is going to take some time, so once we get the installation started, I'm going to pause the video until after the installation is complete. Okay, I accept the license terms, and we're going to say custom installation. We're going to pick our unallocated disk space and say next. And now the installation is started, and we'll pause, waiting for it to finish up. Okay, now that the installation of the operating system is nearly complete, the workstation will have rebooted several times during the installation, but we'll come up to the point that we'll see in just a moment. And then we'll do the final configuration items for the workstation. Now, your workstation may be faster than mine. I have a lot of software running, and I have several other activities taking place on this laptop at the same time. So again, we're going to pause and give this a few minutes to finish. Okay, now you can see that it's ready, so it's going to ask, let's start with this region, is it right? Actually, we're going to be in Saudi Arabia for my installation. Your installation may be different, so I'm going to say that that's the location and accept that. Now, it is important that the workstation be connected to the internet at this phase. That's going to be required later on when we go ahead and start installing options. So we want a US keyboard layout. We're going to skip any additional keyboards. So again, while that's working in the background, we're going to pause the video. All right, we're finally ready to create the first account. We're not going to be using a Microsoft account. We're going to say domain join instead. And here we're going to create an account called admin. And it'll ask us for a password. We're going to use small a 654123. You can use any password you want, but that should be the admin account. It's asking us to confirm the password. Now you must answer these security questions. So here's a list of questions that you can pick and give it an answer. These are just nonsense answers to meet the requirement. Later on, we'll turn off these questions. Now our account is being created and everything is being set up for that account, and we'll be into that in right now. Okay, do we want device cross history? That only works if you're permanently going to be on the internet and you have a Microsoft account. We don't have that, so we will say no. Now, these privacy settings, we're going to turn all these off. If we want to change any of these things, then we can change them at a later time. Accept those. So now, as you can see, Windows thinks we're all done, and it's telling us it's getting everything ready for us. So we'll pause the video until this is finished. Okay, so now you can see that Windows is set up. We're going to say yes. We're going to allow this PC to be found on this network. And so now the next thing that we're going to do is open Windows. We're going to right-click on this PC and go to Properties. And what we have here is we're going to change the name of the computer. Click change. We're going to call this my WS10. We're going to leave it in the work group. Normally this machine is DMZ, and so you will leave it in a work group. It tells you that you're going to need to start to make the changes. When you close this, it again says restart now, restart later. You want to select restart later because we have some other configuration things to take care of here. So we're going to select the window down here to the start menu. And we're going to say settings. And this is something that we're going to use quite often as we go through this procedure. So we're going to pin that to the start menu. And we'll open that. Okay, so we've done those things. Now we're going to close this, and we can close this. And we're going to come down here and we're going to select, we don't want sound, we want here the network. We're going to say open network and internal settings. And then we're going to go to Ethernet. Change adapter settings. Come here to Ethernet network. We're going to say properties. And we're going to select the IPv4 and properties. And then here we're going to set the address. So in this case, my address is 172.16.200. 170, and the subnet is 255, and my default gateway. Now I'm going to come down here for my first DNS. I'm going to put 172.16.201. For the second DNS, I'm going to put 8.8.8.8, which is the Google default public DNS. And we want that because when we go to install the features, we want it to be able to go and search for that stuff. So we're going to say close, and that is going to take care of setting the IP address. So we can close that. We can close this. We're going to select settings on the start menu. And we're going to select time and language. And we're going to select date and time. And you see it says set time automatically, but the time zone is wrong. So we're going to come over here. And for me, you have to set the time zone for what's appropriate for you. I'm in Kuwait and Riyadh. Okay, now if we say sync now, we're going to, because we're on the internet, we're going to sync our time to the default Microsoft time synchronization for this area. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set time zone automatically, and then we're going to close this. We're going to open the File Explorer, this PC. On the local machine, we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call that Install Kits. Now, we put that on the root directory of the operating system so that as we go through this procedure, we're going to create a couple of other accounts. And we want those accounts to be able to get access to this install kits directory. And we'll use the install kits directory later on when we get ready to put the installation together. Now, because this is a virtual machine, we see here we still have our floppy or our CD mounted. We're going to eject that. And because this is an operating system on a virtual machine, I want to be able to go to full screen with this. So I'm going to take this extra step of installing these VirtualBox guest editions. So I say yes, I want to go ahead and do that. And that's going to install all of those. Now, when you do, if you make your virtual machine with VMware, if your procedure here may be a little, if you're doing it on a physical machine, you will not have any of this requirement. And so you can see now we're going to reboot. So while this is rebooting, I will pause. Okay, as you can see, we now have completed our reboot, and because I put in these guest box additions for VirtualBox, again, VMware may be different. We now have a full screen, which gives us a lot more real estate to look at what's going on. So that will conclude this video. Please come and watch the third video, which will deal with all of the installation for the application. It's set up and running.